Ahoy! And welcome to the Boating Hour with Captain Rick. The Boating Hour brings you the latest and greatest essential information about everything that sails, floats, or motors upon the high seas of Southern California. From landlubbers to old salts, there'll be something for everyone. So climb aboard and get ready to sail with Captain Rick.
Ahoy out there, and welcome to the Boating Hour. I'm Captain Rick, and I want to thank you for joining us here on AM 870. We're here every Saturday at 4 p.m., and please be sure to visit us on the web at theboatinghour.com. And now on Instagram, Facebook, and we're also on Rumble. Go take a look at us on all those social media sites. Thanks for our sponsor for our show today, For a Healthy Gut, the best probiotic on the market, Livia One Probiotics, natural, organic, and allergen-free. Well, we have a wonderful guest for you today. I'm really honored to present Kevin Yam from the United States Merchant Marine Academy. Kevin, thanks for coming to the show with Captain Rick.
The honor's mine, Rick.
You know, it's really exciting. I have such wonderful guests, and this is something that I've never touched on is the Merchant Marines. Tell us what the Merchant Marines is and what you do traveling around inspiring young kids to get into the academy.
Well, the United States government has 5 service academies, 4 of which pretty much everyone knows: West Point, Annapolis, Coast Guard Academy, and Air Force Academy. And the 5th one is the United States Merchant Marine Academy, which I am one of the Southern California field representatives, a volunteer for the academy to try to get the word out for young men and women who want a free education, serve their country, and have a tremendous future.
Wow. And your daughter went through the Merchant Marine Academy. Let's talk about her a little bit. By the way, you're really lucky today. I'm slurring my speech because I had such a cold Starbucks Frappuccino, and I feel like I just came out of the dentist. I know I can't do that anymore. But anyway, let's go to you, and let's talk about your daughter in the Merchant Marines.
All right, my daughter is a 2022 graduate from the United States Merchant Marine Academy. She is currently a United States Naval Ensign serving on the USNS Medgar Evans, which is a TAKE, which is a supply ship that is currently assigned to the 6th Carrier Battle Fleet. That is currently the USS Gerald Ford, our new aircraft carrier, the one with the new mag launch capability and recovery system. It's currently in the Mediterranean on station, and what the USNS ships do is they're the ones that bring out the food, the fuel, and the cargo and the ammunition so that the DDGs or destroyers and cruisers and carriers can stay on station. And basically, the joke is we call them the Uber Eats of the Navy.
Oh, excellent. I'd like to be on one of those ships. You know, we covered the Fleet Week. It was really exciting. We saw some of the ships at the battleship Iowa down there in San Pedro. That was pretty exciting. Tell me how the Merchant Marines, I don't know much about the Merchant Marines. So are they, do we have an admiral of the Merchant Marines? Are they in the Joint Chiefs of Staff? I mean, what's a symbiotic relationship between the other branches and the Merchant Marines? I mean, are they people in the Merchant Marines, are they considered military?
Well, the Merchant Marines is a misunderstood term. Anything that falls under the term Merchant Marines is just as the name implies. You're moving merchandise through a maritime mode of transportation. Obviously, 90% of the Merchant Marine are civilians. Your iPhone, your fuel from Saudi Arabia, your bananas from Chile all came by large container ships via the oceans into LA Harbor, Houston, New York Harbor, and offloaded. Those are all Merchant Marines. The United States of America feels it's of strategic importance that it has its own Merchant Marine fleet and officers so that, one, it can, one of the subcategories of Merchant Marine is the United States Merchant Marines as it serves in the United States Naval Supply Services. It's called Strategic Sea Lift Officers. So we have the United States government has approximately 100 ships that do nothing but feed our military, bring goods to the to our troops stationed in Korea. Well, we've got to get, if you want to get a plane over there, or not a plane, a tank or something, or food, you send it by one of our own cargo ships. If you want to, stuff we're sending to Ukraine right now, a lot of that would be shipped, ammunition would be shipped by United States, what used to be United States Navy ships, manned by United States Navy crews. But I think back in the 80s, to save money, they transferred all those ships into the Department of Transportation. So now they're considered civilian ships under the naval control, manned by civilian workers, but generally staffed by naval officers who are in a reserve capacity. Now, I'm throwing a lot of terms at you, but
sure are.
But basically, it's so they have a professional seagoing mariners who are trained and ready to go and serve the United States Navy and Army around the world, to project force around the world, to keep this, remember the Mercy ships?
Oh, sure. I volunteered for the Mercy ship that was coming up, and I thought the pandemic would have been long over when they sent it back, because they didn't have people, they didn't flood the ships. They went back to San Diego. I volunteered for that because I'm in the Coast Guard Auxiliary.
Correct.
Which is a volunteer group of people that support the Coast Guard. So tell me,
both those ships are merchant mariner ships. They're civilian ships under Naval Auxiliary, headed by the Department of Transportation. So that obviously, and the other thing is that there's something called the Jones Act, which if a ship goes from a U.S. port to another U.S. port, it can only be by a U.S. flagged ship. So we're protecting our own shipping, so we don't have Korean or Ugandan or Chinese boats running our goods from Houston to L.A. Or go from L.A. to Hawaii. Those have to be U.S. flagged ships with U.S. mariners. And then, of course, in support of all that, you got tug operations. You've got United States. We handle the NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. We have the Public Health Department are under us. All of those civilian-based maritime activities, the research, those are all done by under the Department of Transportation and staffed by merchant mariners who are trained, U.S. flagged, Coast Guard certified officers and engineers to run and operate the ports, all these ships that make sure your goods are delivered on time, as well as take care of your military man overseas.
God, that is absolutely fascinating. So tell me, how does somebody get into the Merchant Marines? I know that you talked about going into the high schools and colleges, and you're looking at these youngsters and encouraging them to get to one of the academies, and it's quite a educational program. So let's talk about how you inspire these young kids to get into the Merchant Marines and what it takes and what you tell them.
Well, like anyone who's interested in going to West Point, which is the United States Military Academy, United States Naval Academy at Annapolis, Coast Guard Academy in New London, Connecticut would be your people, United States Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, and the United States Merchant Marine Academy at Kings Point, New York. All of these people we're looking for outstanding leaders, men and women who are going to be the presidents, the senators, the astronauts, the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies of tomorrow, but today want to serve their nation, get a free education, and then go out on an adventure and make a difference in the world. So we generally we're looking for, and what we generally tell people is you should apply to all 5 service academies, because the competition to get in is brutal. These are probably the most difficult universities to get into. It's difficult, if not harder, than get into Harvard or MIT or Stanford, because you have to have that level of grades. Plus, you have to be a person of outstanding leadership, character, and quality, and you also have to be a superior athlete. Finding that combination of individual is very difficult and very unusual. So getting into any one of those institutions is a phenomenal accomplishment and sets you on a track to the golden ticket for your life. Not only generational change for you, but lifting yourself and your future family out into a new level of economic reality, as well as service to your country.
That's really inspiring to know that it's so competitive. So if we're watching television, we're seeing the protesting and the wild kids, and of course the dropout rate at a lot of the colleges, and to know that we've got young, vibrant, inspired and motivated young kids is I like that. I like that idea. So it's a huge education budget. In some of your material, you talk about this being a $200,000 to $300,000 education at the top of the top STEM universities. So let's talk a little bit about that. So how competitive and how do you start reaching out to them? Are you doing public appearances? Are you going to the colleges? Are you going, or is there that many people inquiring? So how do you reach out to the young kids? And you also talked about you start at the junior high school level.
Well, we're being the smallest of the academies, and since we have a civilian budget, not a military budget, we're at a little bit of disadvantage compared to our big brothers. I mean, West Point, just to give you an example, they have, like 5,000 students. We have 1,000. Annapolis has 5,000. We have 1,000. I mean, so they have a military budget, which is massive. We're the Department of Transportation. So a lot of what we do is bootstrap on what they do. We go to the almost every congressman has an academy day where they're pitching to the academies to kids to let them know. We go to high schools, we go to colleges, we go to counselors, just trying to get the word out. And proud Americans like yourself who are just trying to get the word out to those interested, exceptional young men and women who are interested in getting a free education, serving their country, and going on an adventure of a lifetime.
I had never heard of the United States Merchant Marine Academy when I was a youngster.
Don't feel bad. My daughter was in ROTC in high school and was going to apply to all 4 service academies. And I am a military brat. My father was a career Marine, and I had never heard of the Merchant Marine Academy. And I grew up in Seal Beach where maritime industry is huge. It was only when we went to hear the congressmen, and we had representatives from Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard pitching their academies. There was a U.S. MMA guy standing there with the same material I'm showing you and walked over and go, well, what are you all about?
Okay.
And he told us what we're just like, this is the best deal in town. Why doesn't anybody ever know about you? And it's the same thing. We just don't have the budget. We don't have commercials on the Super Bowl like,
Right.
I mean, we do more before 9 a.m. than most people do in the day, and you don't even know we exist. So
that's a great ad.
So, a lot of that is just, we do everything they do. We just have, in my opinion, benefits. We're the only academy that doesn't require you to go into the service that the academy is. If you go to the Air Force Academy, you got to go in the Air Force. If you go to the Naval Academy, you got to go to the Navy or the Marines. Ours, you can go into any of them. You can go into Coast Guard. Every year we send multiple people to every single branch of government. We're the only one that about 75% of our students, probably about 50% of our students go into the civilian world. As I said, you can meet your service obligation by sailing on your license or working in the maritime industry for the United States government that way. So technically I've got, half my daughter's graduating friends are working on ships offshore, working in shipyards around the country, working in stevedoring, logistics, brokerage, all types of maritime operations, fulfilling their service obligation to the United States government, including you can join the Public Health Department, you can join NOAA.
Oh, is that right?
That's
I
right.
talk a little bit about NOAA. Actually, when I spoke about NOAA, I had a gentleman very experienced whose name was Noah. So
Noah
I
from
said
NOAA.
that I knew Noah. And here we have Noah. Spells his name a little bit differently, but that was exciting. So your daughter, when she was looking at the other academies, what was she leaning towards before she found the Merchant Marines?
Well, being an Air Force ROTC, she wanted to go to the Air Force Academy. Okay. And in her junior year, I took her to the Air Force Academy, showed her what the life was like, because it's one of the things I want. If you're interested, this is not going to Cal State San Luis Obispo. Right. This is a different experience. It's a military discipline. It's a different thing, and you need to be aware of it. So I took her to that, and there are 2 types of kids. 90% of them go, nope, not interested. I couldn't imagine doing that. And the other 10%, I just want to go harder and longer. Is that all you got? You wanted me to jump out of a perfectly good airplane? That sounds like fun. You want me to jump off a 75-foot side of a ship? Let's do it. If you want to make a difference, you want to be a CEO, you want to be a mover and shaker, you want to fly an F-35, you want to be an astronaut, you're a different kind of cat. That's the kind of people we're looking for. Now, as you can imagine, you don't roll out of bed as an 11th grader thinking, well, I want to go to UCLA or Arizona State, or I want to be an F-35 pilot. Don't happen, dude. That takes commitment. You got to be busting your butt from a very young age to get in shape, to become leader of your team, to be in student government, to community service, to getting outstanding grades, to buttress your resume so you are the best and the brightest, because everybody wants to do it, but very few can do it. And I need to get a hold of you at a young age, and your parents at a young age, to get you trained up to understand what the commitment is, what you need to do to get ready for it, how you need to get your grades. You've got to have background checks. You've got to have medical exams. You have to have physical fitness tests. You have security checks. I mean, we are going to, like I said, graduating from my daughter's class, her boyfriend is now down in Pensacola strapping his butt into an F-35.
Is that right? My
Her
goodness.
best friend is now down in Charleston, North Carolina, being a nuclear sub-engineer. My daughter is now fourth in command of a ship of 150 human and 125 Marine detachment and 2 helicopter squadrons. These are different type of people. Yeah. These are the best and the brightest. These are going to become like Senator from Arizona, who was, God, I can't think of his name. He was a U.S. MMA graduate, became an astronaut, a Navy flyer, now is senator from Arizona. It's, you're the kind of person who, our average person visits 18 countries while they're at the academy. If this is something you like to do, if you want to go out and work and make a difference and lead men and make a difference in the world, you're not going to do that sitting in your mom's basement playing Donkey Kong. Or, I'm sorry, Zelda. I'm old. My apologies. You've got to go out there and
I go back to
difference.
Pong. I go back to Pong, so we're from that same generation when we thought that the technology wouldn't get any better.
Right.
It really is inspiring. It really is. It's fascinating. What's the contact? Let's plug a little bit how people find out about this. What's the websites? How do people find out about getting looking into the Merchant Marines? Where can they see? Do you have public booths? Booths at boat shows. Where was the Merchant Marines? Were you guys represented at Fleet Week or at the Armed Service Parade?
No, we are not. Obviously, COVID threw a big monkey wrench into the plans we were working on, so we're just kind of recovering from that. And as I said, I'm a volunteer. The USMMA, all the field representatives are volunteers, where all the other service academies field reps are either paid or required of service members. They actually have serving active duty members, like recruiting stations, who do this professionally. Because we are a majority a civilian operation, we just don't have the budget to do that. And frankly, we're only about 900 students strong, so we don't have any problems filling our roles. But the answer to your question is obviously usmma.edu is the website. I would also recommend going on to YouTube and type in United States Merchant Marine Academy, and there will be several promotional videos that have been prepared by USMMA to what we do. There will be private companies that do college recruiting and college information about, hey, here's University of Southern California, and they do a video. Well, they've got those for USMMA. And there's all kinds of day in the lives of, and of course in our world, videos shot by the students to let them know what life is like on the academy. So like anything else, there's no shortage if you want to do the research. Now, if you want to get in contact me, my name is Kevin at yamlaw.com, YEAMLAW.com. I'm a lawyer here, but doing this volunteer-wise, but I can hook you up with all of our representatives with the United States Congress, because you have to have, for our academy, just like everybody except for the Coast Guard Academy, a nomination. We'll send you all kinds of information material about what we do, how we do it, what's required of you, what kind of grades you're going to need, what kind of physical fitness you're going to need, that type of thing. And we will literally work with you over the years to help you pick classes, help you get your resume in order, not only for us, but for West Point and any other academies, because the 5 service academies all kind of work together. We request that you apply to all of them. My daughter applied to all of them.
Really? Okay.
Most kids apply to all of them, because if you get into one, it's almost like a miracle. I think we have a 6% acceptance rate.
My goodness.
Across the board. So getting into, it's the rare student who gets into more than one. She was the number 1 pick from her congressman to the USMMA, and she got into USMMA. She did not get into any of the other 4 academies, so that's the one she took.
Well, that's a great road. USMMA. Now, is that United States Mixed Martial Arts?
Or as we call it, Use Mama.
Okay, Use Mama. I like it. That's fantastic.
But they call themselves King's Pointers.
Okay. So the senator in Arizona, Mark Kelly, you were talking about.
That's it, Mark Kelly.
Was an astronaut.
Correct.
So that's pretty phenomenal. So he was, and I guess he's pretty popular down there in Arizona. I don't know much about what's going on there, though I love Arizona. But this is wonderful. Well, let's talk a little bit about the women. We talked about your daughter, and you've got some material, strong future for women. The Coast Guard is now 42 active duty, 42% women. And a lot of the women have really been promoted and achieved tremendous success. I've featured some of the women on the show. So let's talk about the Merchant Marine Academy for the women. Is your daughter a rare bird in that academy, or are there a lot of women that are following right behind her and ahead of her? What's going on with the women?
Kings Point runs at about 20-25% women, which is obviously up from past. Comparable, if not as better than the other academies, but we're always looking to do better. To your point, her roommate just got accepted to Coast Guard Aviation, so she wants to be a helicopter pilot, search and rescue. So she'll be starting that program here soon. So 25% of our graduates going to some type of military or Coast Guard Aviation.
What amazes me is the technology. When the cutters come out, I'm familiar with some of the birds that fly. As they come out, they're very technological, and when I meet the pilots or the people working on the crew, they tell me it's already obsolete. So the learning curve of being able to understand how to run this equipment, to me, is tremendous. I think if I train for 20 years, I might be familiar, and these kids train for just a couple. So you're talking about the brightest in our future, but it is really wonderful for me to see that that it's so competitive. Is she having a good time? Does she like it? Is she going to be a career with the Merchant Marines?
Well, only a year, and so far she's very happy, very excited to be there. It's a lot to learn. She's working on her master's degree while at sea through SUNY Maritime to keep her options open to transition into the shoreside executive side. But yes, her goal right now is to become a master mariner or captain of a ship. By the way, she spent a month down in Puerto Rico on a Coast Guard cutter.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Everybody has to do an internship. That's part of the graduation. And for her, she wanted to try the Coast Guard out. She didn't want to do aviation. She explored doing aviation. So, like as you said, the Coast Guard produces a lot of opportunities for females. It's an exciting and interesting interdiction business and safety around the world. And she went down there and did drug interdictions for a month. She liked it. She just preferred the bigger vessels. She was on a 155 footer down there, and her current ship is 850.
God, that is so amazing. Well, Kevin, I want to thank you for joining us and talking about Merchant Marine, something I haven't talked about yet. This is the first show, and I hope that I can do a good job promoting the Merchant Marines now that I know about it. Maybe I can work with you, get you into Fleet Week and the Armed Service Parade down next year. Next year, it's the Space Force. It's the first time the Space Force will be, and that's a 80 to 90% civilian as well. Space Force, a lot of technology jobs. So the Space Force at the Armed Service Parade next year. But it's been wonderful having you on there. And USMMA. What is
EDU.
it? Oh, EDU? Okay. So that's how you get a hold of him, or you can talk to him. What kind of law do you practice before we go?
I'm retired now.
Oh, you're retired. You're a youngster. You're too young to retire.
Well, I worked very hard for 40 years, and now I'm trying to give back to America by getting the word out on USMMA and return the favor the service that my daughter's performing.
Well, that is wonderful. Well, I thank you again, and my regards to your daughter. I'd like to get her on the show. Send her my regards, and this is wonderful. This is something I'm going to talk about. I'm going to follow and learn a lot more about that. Well, that's all the time we have for you today, and I hope you enjoyed our show. As always, we're so very fortunate to have such wonderful and exciting guests. And let's not forget the Coasties. Next week, August 4th, is the anniversary of the Coast Guard. So it's the Coast Guard's anniversary. Couple of centuries in operation, the Coast Guard. So protecting our waters, America's lifesavers and guardians of the sea. Remember, if you do it right and follow the guidelines and safety precautions, there's no place like being out of the water in the fresh air and sunshine in beautiful, sunny Southern California. Here at the Boating Hour with Captain Rick, we cover everything that sails, motors, and floats from San Diego to Santa Barbara. Thanks for being with us today. Please be sure to join us next week and every Saturday at 4 p.m. on AM 870 and now on all the social media, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. Keep your emails coming. This is Captain Rick saying fair winds to all. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to us, and go to our website at theboatinghour.com.